Greetings out there in Internet Blues Land. I'm the Jazz and Blues audiophile. I'm here to talk to you today about a legendary blues man, blues artist. The man that really introduced me to the blues. And back in 1984. And I know mostly I speak a lot about jazz on these programs. I present a lot of jazz artists, and there's a lot more to come right there. But there's a lot more to come the blues way also. A lot of great, legendary blues men and blues women have come down through the years and have left their mark on the blues world. This one is one of the great, legendary guys, and I'm talking about the great Son Seals, of course. This is the album that's playing in the background, Living in the Danger Zone, released back in 1991 on the mighty little Alligator Chicago Blues label. And Son Seals is all about real, honest-to-goodness blues. To sing the blues and play the blues correctly, you've got to have some life experience. First of all, that's the first thing. Don't give me a 15-year-old, 16-year-old blues man. I don't believe him. I can't believe what he's singing about because he hasn't lived yet. He hasn't felt pain, joy, and everything else in between enough to be able to sing and play the blues with any kind of credibility. Credibility is what it's all about when you're singing and playing the blues. That's why a lot of so-called blues men today, they just don't have it, you know. I can't stand a guy like Joe Bonamassa, for instance. Sorry for those who like him, but he's not blues. He sounds much more like rock and roll to me. He's very good technically, very fast, can dazzle you with his guitar work, but that's not what the blues is all about. The blues is about raw, emotional power. It's about the capacity to make those strings scream your emotion and be able to really express that with your voice also, if you can. And this man, the great Son Seals, back in '84, I won a pair of tickets at a local radio station here. I won his album, and I also got a chance to meet him backstage. And I was not ready for what I was about to see. I had never seen blues live before. I didn't know anything about blues power. Well, boy, I sure found out that night in November 1994. After coming out of the Rainbow Bistro, I was in a state of shock. And a lot of other guys that were there with me, and people that were there in that club with me that night, and just a very small club, just about 100 people, were in sheer amazement and shock at what they had heard and what they had seen. This great blues man, Son Seals. So I'm here to promote, to try and suggest to you a great way of getting into the blues world, because the blues world is a different realm from the jazz world. Of course, sometimes they interconnect. There's been some interconnections between the blues and jazz. A lot of jazz men play blues instrumentally. They'll play some blues numbers, but of course, it's nothing like what the Chicago black bluesmen will play, or the black bluesmen from the south of the states. Now, I'm not trying to make this a racial issue. You know, the question's been asked many times: can a white man play the blues? Jimmy Dawkins answered that question in a documentary a long time ago. He said, yeah, I think a white guy can play the blues, but they can't sing it and play it like we do. Speaking of the black people of the United States, because they haven't lived what we've lived through. They haven't experienced the hardship that we've experienced in the same way most of the time. Now, it's true a lot of white people have experienced some hardship too, but not the same kind of hardships often as the black people of the United States. When we read the history books, and very recent history books for that matter, and realize everything they had to endure just in the 20th century alone. So, when you're talking about the blues, you're talking about that capacity to express this emotion in such a powerful way that people will actually connect with what you're singing about and what you're playing on your guitar. And this was all about Son Seals during his performances. He was able to connect his music directly with the soul and the heart of the crowd. And I remember a great version of a song that he used to do. He used to do Elmore James' The Sky is Crying. And there's a passage in that song where he says at one point, I've got a real bad feeling that my woman, she don't love me no more. And if nobody reacted in the crowd when he shouted that phrase across the bar, he would just stop the song and say, what's the matter here? What's wrong? Didn't you hear what I just said? I said I've got a real bad feeling that my woman, she don't love me no more. What was he trying to do? He's trying to say, hey, wake up. I'm talking emotionally. I'm singing emotionally about something that everybody has experienced at one point or another. You know, you find out that the woman you're with doesn't love you anymore. Come on, can you connect with that somewhere? Does it ring a bell? Does it bring forth some emotion? And yeah, that's what the blues is all about, connecting with those emotions that everybody has lived, the good and the bad, the great and the less great. But that's what the blues is about. That's what a true blues man can accomplish. He can actually, in one great show, make you experience all kinds of emotions so powerfully that he'll actually rip them out of you and lay them bare. And it's an absolutely incredible, undescribable experience to see a great legendary bluesman that has that talent and has that capacity to express the feelings in such a raw and emotional way. That's what the blues is all about. That's what we talk about, blues power. That's what Albert King tries to explain on his famous legendary song recorded back in 1968 at the Fillmore West, the song called Blues Power, you know? He's trying to tell the people out there, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about blues power. And Son Seals was a disciple of the great Albert King, played drums behind the Albert King band at some time during his career before picking up the guitar in the early 70s and becoming a true master of the electric blues guitar during the 70s and 80s. And he was known as the Bad Axe. That was his nickname because of that great, very unique guitar style that developed on that great big Guild guitar that he used to play. Now, if any place that you want to get into some real blues, this is my suggestion. This is a very good place to get into some real, honest to goodness, true Chicago blues. This man had just about everything happen to him. He got shot in the jaw by his then wife in Chicago in the mid-90s. He had to undergo complete surgery and reconstruction of the jawbone and everything. But he went right back on the road and started singing and playing the blues again. That didn't stop him. Then his house burned down to the ground. He lost all his guitars and all his stuff. That didn't stop him. He got back on the road, kept going again. Then he'd been fighting diabetes for years, and diabetes took one of his legs, took his left leg. He had his left leg amputated. That didn't stop him. Got back on the road, and he kept on going right until the very end in 2004. When then diabetes finally claimed his life. So I don't think he was taking good care of it. I think it was probably being because you can live with diabetes to a very ripe old age. B.B. King proved that. B.B. King was diabetical his whole life and managed to live until his late 80s, I believe, when he passed away a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, Son was not that lucky and died from complications of diabetes in 2004. He was only 62 years old, I believe. But anyway, this is my recommendation. If you want to hear and feel the blues like nothing else with a real blues man, then Son Seals. This is an album recorded in 1991 after a long break from recording. He was almost 6 years without producing an album for Alligator. I think he was an artist that was cruelly under-recorded. Son has got 10 albums altogether. You've got 10 albums, you've got his whole collection, his whole output. And he was active from the 70s all the way to 2004. I think he was very much under-recorded. Thank goodness we've got some great bootleg recordings available. I got a few of them off the internet, and it gives you an opportunity to hear some great live sets by the legendary Sun Seals. Because what Alligator's got, if they've got anything else in the vaults, I will sure wish they would release it, because this was his main company for most of his career, except for the last 2 or 3 years, I think, of his career, where he left Alligator and went with Telarc on their blues label. And on this album, you can hear him playing with the great Red Krossinger that was touring with him for a number of years. I saw him several times with Red Krossinger on tenor sax and flute. An excellent tenor saxophone, flute player, and also played one hell of a mean clarinet. And he could play all this blues. He's also got Kevin Tremblay on rhythm guitar, Bay Williams on bass, and Kerman Fraser on drums. Also, on a lot of the tracks here, he's accompanied by 3 legendary blues musicians that need much wider recognition for all their work they did as background men and just great accompanists. The great Sid Wingfield is on organ and piano. Johnny B. Gayton, the solid bass man, on bass. And the legendary Ray Killer Allison on the drums. These guys, boy, they could play. And he's also got Sugar Blue appearing on 1 or 2 numbers on this. So this is a great, great album. Legendary album from the great legendary Sun Seals. Living in the Danger Zone. I highly recommend it if you want to introduce yourself to some real, bona fide, raw Chicago blues. This has been my recommendation, and if you like these little recommendations I make on an on and off basis, on a regular basis actually, don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there and leave some comments below. If you want to share things musically about the blues or jazz or whatever with me, go ahead. Don't be shy. As I always say, don't be shy. Write some comments. I usually reply. And as I'll always say at the end of my episodes, I'm going to say jazz on. No, I'm not going to say jazz on this time. I'm going to say blues on. Don't forget the blues on. I'm the Jazz and Blues Audiophile. Keep the spirit, keep the blues alive, because the blues are the truth. Talk to you later.